Hello, I'm Richard Moore, North Mississippi Anti-Gang Stalking Association, YouTube, United States Anti-Gang Stalking Association. As you can see, I'm outdoors today once again, and behind me is a memorial marker, and I'm at the Bryce's Crossroads National Battlefield near Baldwin, Mississippi. This battlefield is, they state, is Mississippi's last stand for the defense of the southern states during the Civil War. People may ask, what does this have to do with criminal stalking? Well, it has everything to do with criminal stalking. Behind me, you'll see this memorial is for Confederate and Federal armies. Bryce's Crossroads, or Tishomingo Creek is what it says. June the 10th, 1864, which resulted in a victory for Confederate forces under Brigadier General Nathan B. Forrest. So maybe I can get to my point. This was in 1864. Years later, in the 1930s, this site was visited by the Desert Fox. Rommel, General Rommel, was the famed Desert Fox that served under Adolf Hitler. He toured this battleground where I'm standing. It's kind of strewn out in different places out here. And he also, north of where I am now in Shiloh, Tennessee, which is considered one of the bloodiest battles ever fought in the Civil War. He also visited, and we don't know who was with Rommel during this visit. This was prior to World War II, and the tragedies that ensued with the Third Reich. Rommel wanted to study the battle tactics of Nathan Forrest, but I believe that there's under that there's something even more sinister involved. We know that that during the Civil War, that more Americans died in that war than all other wars combined. A lot of blood was shed. Now, people will argue the real reason behind the Civil War, but we know that one of the prominent and things that stick out, obviously, for the Civil War was over slavery. Cotton was king, and that was worth its weight in gold, literally. These human beings, African Americans, were purchased legally. They were essentially kidnapped and from their home countries, put on slave ships, and brought to the South and purchased legally to harvest cotton. Of course, the southern plantation owners treated them as if well worse than animals, actually. So we know the story there, so I'm not here to tell the story about that. But these people were systematically not only trafficked, or victims of human trafficking, is what we call it now. They called it slavery then, but it's the same thing. We know we may never know at how many African Americans died that were tortured, beaten, hung, and killed for their fight and plight that they were experiencing during those times. In the 1860s is when this thing came to a head. And of course, years later, after about 1870 in there, is about the time the Ku Klux Klan was official. They were in play prior to that, but it was around that time. Their first leader that was appointed to organize this terrorist hate organization of white Americans and their hatred of Jews, organized labor, African Americans, etc., foreigners, you name it. Very bigoted, narrow-minded, racist, and evil intentions. The very leader, his name is prominent on this marker, it's prominent in the Confederate in the Civil War history books. He's the very leader that took the helm of one of the most evil hate groups that this nation and world has ever known. So much so that Adolf Hitler sent his right-hand man to come and study their hero of past. Now we know what the Third Reich was responsible for. They shared a common value of their hatred of Jews. And we know, and history tells us, that over 6 million were systematically imprisoned and murdered. Those that escaped that, which were very few, they were persecuted. Even coming to America, they had to experience the same thing. A 100 years after the Declaration of Emancipation was signed by our first Republican, Abraham Lincoln. Remember, the Ku Klux Klan, one of their main objectives was an anti-Republican group. Read your history books. We have anti-Republican. I don't want to make this about Democrat and Republican. But look how far we've come in America. Even the African Americans that uphold and embrace the very party that upheld and embraced their slavery, their torture, their persecution. It's that same party. It wasn't the Republican Party. What they don't mention is people somehow think, well, that's the thing of the past. Well, I'm here to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it isn't a thing of the past. It's still alive and well in America. It is deep rooted. President Trump calls it the deep state. It is rooted in our very government, from the very top all the way down, through our Department of Homeland Security Fusion Centers. Each state has one. Go to their site, read about it. It's not a federal agency, and it's not a state agency. It's owned by state employees and private entities. That in itself, as I've stated in the past, is a very convoluted, purposely convoluted proposition. Yet they're bilking billions of taxpayer dollars, these private contractors and these fusion centers, on false entries on individuals that have been deemed somehow as a threat to this country, I being one of them. Now, this is a list I'll never get to see. You as a victim will never get to see. Some prefer to title what we're going through as victims of these crimes as gang stalking, because groups of people in flash mobs, vehicles, and so forth participate in all types campaigns to systematically chip away at the target's psyche and their physical being by using electronic weaponry developed for military use, has now in the hands of private contractors. And thanks to the Fusion Centers data collection on every single American citizen, from pharmacological data all the way to what you prefer for breakfast in the morning, they have that information. The Privacy Act to them is a joke. All of this was circumvented with the Patriot Act. After 9/11, the Constitution, my friends, became a historical document at best. Civil liberties went out the window. Now, this didn't happen officially because Americans would stand for that. We've got to do something to protect our borders. And I'm calling that, I'm calling the BS on the border protection deal. Why is that? How is it that metric tons of illegal drugs enter this country daily, yet metric tons of weapons of mass destruction are not? You mean to tell me that the cartels south of the border are more intelligent and their pockets are deeper than our friends in the Middle East that hate us? Friends, let me tell you, it's time to wake up, smell the coffee. How is it that this is happening? It only can happen under the ever-watching eye of the people that took an oath to defend and protect the Constitution of these United States of America, and to protect our borders, and to protect and serve its citizenry. These are the people that, as long as they allow this revolving door of drugs, then they can justify continuing to build prisons, rehab centers. The mental health industry is growing in leaps and bounds, and furthering this holistic approach to policing. And we're in a police state as I speak. This is not something that may happen. This is not a conspiracy. This is not some right-wing extremist thought process. This is a fact, ladies and gentlemen. That's what we're living in. President Trump calls it the deep state. When people hear that, I think, I don't believe people are really picking up what he's talking about. For the president to come out and break down, or attempt to break down, what I'm talking about, that's impossible unless we sit here and read War and Peace, and believe me, that's a long read. It's hard to get traction because people get lost in the, oh my God, it's just too, and they'd rather say, well, it's not happening to me, I just can't worry about it, because they can't do anything about it. And my friends, that's the reason it was designed that way. You just throw your hands up and say, well, it doesn't affect me. Well, yes, it does affect you. That's where your tax dollars are going. It does affect you because you're voting for people. You're putting people in office that dare not tread on that serpent of destruction and that serpent of evil. So you're either for systematic torture of American citizens, the abject denial of civil liberties, the abject denial of constitutional rights, the abject denial of due process, or you believe that we should have laws in this country, and we do have laws, and they should be followed regardless if you wear a badge or not, or regardless if you're a part of this deep state, these people that are doing things behind closed doors. And most of the things they're doing are in broad open daylight. If you don't know what you're looking at, it doesn't look abnormal, because we trust them. We trust what they're saying. As I reach out and I speak with victims daily, it is overwhelming at the people that reach out to me. There's no way possible that I can personally, as much as I'd love to, give individual attention and so forth. You have to understand, as being targeted, fraudulently and illegally set up by law enforcement and an attorney in Monroe County, Mississippi, sent to federal prison on a bogus conviction. These things can now be proven. The avenues to gain entrance back into a court have long been exhausted. These people still have their jobs. These people are still dismissing those like me as, he's just bitter, or he's crazy, or he's lying. Yet, I have facts, sworn statements that support what I'm saying. Credible evidence, eyewitness evidence to support what I'm saying, and they know it. As a result of that, my targeting and me being the bad guy continues to increase daily. As I travel across this country, when I have teams of vehicles perpetually and relentlessly and systematically trying to force you off the road, to antagonize, blinding you with the brighting of the lights and so forth, this is coordinated thanks to our fusion centers and their data collection, their supercomputers with the predictive software. You can't make any move without these people showing up. As I'm making this film, they're buzzing around here like flies. This country is full of people that are obviously narrow-minded. That's not the majority. We have a segment of society that are absolute morons. We have to deal with that. Fusion centers use several organizations that have other higher callings, other agendas, and they feed into that to utilize these people to do their bidding. Whether it be the Masons, the Mormons, the Muslim Brotherhood, tribal groups from reservations, the list goes on and on and on. And let's not forget the fake churches and the fake Christians. These are churches where people gather and meet and plan the very things of torturing and depriving an American citizen of the things that I just mentioned. They may claim or believe that they're doing God's work. But friend, I'm telling you, God will never allow one of his to come against one of his own. God doesn't work in secrecy. God doesn't deal and work in the realm of secret societies, Mr. Mason. You can tell people all day long that you're a born again Christian. But if you're a Mason, you're talking out of both sides of your mouth. And you are absolutely a fraud. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You're a fraud. Fake churches, we're calling you out. Now the problem that we have today is after it took 100 years for the Declaration of Emancipation for it to that was in the 1860s until the 1960s. It took 100 years to get a civil rights bill passed. And to this day that I speak, right now, 2020, African Americans still suffer from prejudices and from being treated as second-class citizens in many places. I said all that to say this. With this criminal organized stalking that is widespread, not just in the United States, but globally, even the African Americans, a percentage of them have cast their lot with the devil. The very people that should brush back against human trafficking, child sex trafficking, drug trafficking, and the systematic torture and denial of due process to citizens, they should be ashamed of themselves. And let me tell you, folks, a day of reckoning is coming. Trust me on that. A day of reckoning is coming. Jesus said, as you sow, so shall you reap. He didn't say you're going to get a pass because a man with a badge told you it was okay, or because a fake preacher in a fake church didn't stand up against it. Because let me tell you, preacher, if you're not standing against it, then baby, you standing for it. There is no middle ground when it comes to criminal, systematic torture and death of other human beings. That's what we're experiencing. In the state of Arizona alone, they have tens and thousands, CPS has tens and thousands of children. They don't know what happened to them. They know where they are. Can't account for them. That's just in one state. Do your research. Nationwide, it's an absolute nightmare. What's happening to these people? Where are they going? What are they doing to them? I don't believe that most people that are hearing this today want to know the answer to that. But if you'll just sit down a minute and get along with God, He might tell you exactly what's going on with that. Jesus said, whatsoever you do to the least of these. He's speaking not only of the children, but he's speaking of the most vulnerable, our seniors, and those people that have been wrongfully persecuted and fingered as being something that they're not. Victims of smear tactics, isolated by their friends and families, unemployable, forced into homelessness, ultimately suicide, their own self-implosion. And that's the end game, by the way, is death. It's the same as with Auschwitz, what the end game was when you entered that. It's the same in the dirty South. And when I say dirty South, I'm not speaking of something of the past. I'm speaking right now. Racism is alive and well and thriving. And the reason it thrives is because now it's become an all-inclusive organization. And these clowns have cast their lot. And so now they don't see what they're doing as being oppressive. What fools. What fools. That puts a new meaning to Uncle Tom. That puts a new meaning to these WASP and these people in government that believe that they know best. They know what's best for America. So what do you do about it? What we're doing about it is we're exposing the lie. What I've been talking about lately is when a victim, they don't know there's a name for this. They know what's going on. Everybody told them they're crazy. And they even insinuate they're on drugs or whatever it is. They're dismissed. They're gaslighted, if you will. They're caused to maybe question, well, maybe I hear something wrong. Maybe I do need to see a psychiatrist. Friend, the people that are gaslighting you, that are telling you that, are in on the deal. And they're just as guilty as the man with a machete in his hand lopping off heads. They're just as criminally culpable as they are. They're working with a program that absolutely is illegal. It absolutely defies our Constitution, our civil liberties, and our system of due process. Hundreds and thousands of Americans went to war and bled and died thinking that they're defending something, and we've even got veterans involved. Too many people have drank the Kool-Aid. This makes Jim Jones look like a Sesame Street skit on steroids. Ladies and gentlemen, when these people get on social media and they find these pages of targeted this or like targeted justice and what have you, and they've got all this wonderful information and these high-ranking government official whistleblowers and all this other horse shit, it is those groups and those people, and most part, are part of the program too, to corral the victim, to corral them into gaining evidence and knowledge. They befriend that person. And this is how they hone what they're doing against the victim, because the victims are pouring their souls out and putting this stuff, and you got all these actors in there. And I'm going to be putting the list up of some of the actors. I'll say the actors of the week. You've got these individuals, they've got every gadget in the world, and they're always complaining and showing you drones and helicopters and spooks and flying monkeys, and they've got it all figured out. But here's what this country boy from Alabama hadn't figured out. You've got all that sense, but why is all this still going on? It's what we're not talking about, is what we need to be talking about. They're phony. Sign this petition. Do this class action. This is baloney. Baloney, baloney. Their main and first line of defense is social media. Thanks to Google and Facebook, they make it possible. So when you get on there, you get on Facebook and you search, I mean, you're in a corral the whole time. Getting outside of that box is almost impossible of getting real information. When President Trump was talking about fake news, he's not just talking about 2 or 3 of the big 3 news agencies or 4. That's not what he's talking about, folks. Yeah, they're part of it. Well, he's talking about the deep state. He's not talking about 3 or 4 people and these Russian spies and all this stuff. Come on now. You need to wake up and smell the coffee. Why is that? Daily, right now, today. We don't know how many, but we do know this. Victims have given up. They've lost hope in the system that was put in place to protect them. They have no reason to live. They have no resources to fall back on. They've been told repeatedly that they're wrong, they're confused, it's crazy, and on and on and on. This is part of the program. This is part of the program. They're being gaslighted and dismissed. And the people and the perpetrators that participate in these programs, like these drive-by morons. You've heard the pipes and stuff, and I've been out in this area here many times. It's busier than the New Jersey Turnpike because I'm out here. Isn't that a hell of a note? I'm in the middle of nowhere. I know it's if you're in Mississippi, anywhere in Mississippi, you're still in the middle of nowhere. But at any rate, I am in the middle of nowhere. But you have the gawking morons that just can't help themselves to try to get their 15 minutes of fame. And I can't stop doing what I'm doing. I want to give them 15 minutes of fame, and I want to give them an opportunity to get all the fame they need. But they're not going to get it, ladies and gentlemen, like they think they're going to get it. For the victim journal, don't try to be validated. People say, well, I didn't prove anything. Don't listen to that garbage. That's a lie. Journal, take photographic evidence, write down information, dates and times, keep that. You're going to need it. You're welcome to send your story to me on Facebook, North Mississippi Anti-Gang Stalking Association. You can direct message me through that. You're welcome to send information to me. That information will be stored, and it'll be there. Your story will be heard. May not be today or tomorrow, but you can rest assured you got a story and you're a victim, send it to me. It will go in places, and I'll promise you this, it will be heard. I may not be able to convince the whole world about anything. Jesus wasn't able to do it either. He walked on water, raised the dead, and opened blinded eyes, and they couldn't get him fast enough. Folks, while we're on this earth and on this life, we can't expect it to be a rose garden. But as a child of God, He will see us through it. I'm here today because God sees fit that I'm here today. You hear that, stalkers? Do you hear that, Fusion Center? With all of your millions and billions of stolen, taxpayer fraudulently gained money, and all the things that you have, you're fake, you're frauds, and you have yet to figure out how to stop one real man. You see, it's hard for fake people to do something to a real person. You know why I'm still here? Because God sees it. And I don't care what kind of ability you've got these clowns making these other people think. From reading minds to all this other BS. Let me tell you something. I'm satisfied that I've got my hand in the hand of the man that knows what's going on. And when I've cling to that nail-scarred hand, I will promise you, not one hair, what's left on my head, will be touched. I'm satisfied that when it's my time to go, that's going to be God's call. It's not going to be your call. And then so until that happens, I'm going to keep telling the truth. And I'm going to keep exposing and with the truth. And that light, my friend, is our weapon. We're going to expose them on Facebook. They're fighting me daily. They're fighting me tooth and nail daily of campaigns that discredit me and all that. Do your best. Been there, done that. I'm not seeking validation. I'm not running for office. I'm not kissing babies. I'm not trying to win Mr. Congeniality. I'm going to stand here and tell the truth. And I'm going to tell you, God has got my back, so I'm really not worried about anything, folks. I've got a feeling that everything is going to be all right. You hear me? Matter of fact, I know everything's going to be all right. Victims, hold your head up. Be proud. Dust off yourself. The people that you lost, the majority of them, when I look back in retrospect, I'm ashamed to admit that I even knew them. Those are not real people. They're not true friends. True friendship is hard to find. It's scarce as hen's teeth. But until you know the love of Jesus Christ, you have no idea what true love is. You have no clue of what love is. And as a Christian, and people get on and say, well, you do good until you get off on that religion. Well, let me tell you what. If you got a problem with that, then jump off my page, okay? Find somewhere else to go. Because it's not something I'm on, okay? It's not a subject that I am going to waver on. This is not something that is open for discussion. I keep things simple. God said it, I believe it, that settles it. Now, what's going on in the United States of America is wrong. It's criminal. I could care less. This country is not ran by mob mentality. We have fallen for every joke and every okie doke that has come down the pike. We're dealing with this COVID deal. What's it going to be next? What's really going on? Everything has to be on the table, ladies and gentlemen. Just like Pearl Harbor. The government knew before it happened. This is a historical fact. So why did it happen? Breakdown in communication, whatever the story is. It gave us an excuse to get into a war that the Americans did not want to get in. And we were fighting two fronts, world wars. And they opened the door at the thousands, tens of thousands of American men and women died needlessly for us to get involved. We could go on and on about this, folks. I'm not going to continue going on. I'm telling you, if we do not know our past, if we forget that, we're doomed to repeat it. And folks, just because Barack Obama got elected, well, we're past all that now. Who are you kidding? We're so further regressed, so much further regressed than we've ever been. Wake up and smell the coffee, America. And for you fake people, and you sleeper perps, and you sleeper double agents, and whatever you want to call yourself, I've met them personally. I know who you are. It's not hard to see your true colors. Some of these people have been in place for years, championing the cause and advocacy for targeted victims. And I don't. What have they done? What have they done? Targeting has increases daily. You haven't done anything but spin and spin and spin and keep propagating the crimes against the victim by making them believe and chasing these pie in the sky Star Trek bull crap to keep them off of the names and places of the people behind it. These morons driving these cars, doing these noise harassment, these color campaigns, and all this stuff that we have to experience. So I'm supposed to believe a supercomputer's doing that, okay? Because I've seen these people eating corn dogs and picking their nose down here at the local store, and it looked like a supercomputer to me. Looked like just what I said they looked like, okay? So you can take you, beam me up, Scotty, and take it somewhere else. Because you can talk about that until hell freezes over, and we still got a problem. Until we start naming names and calling it what it is. That's not popular. But again, I give a tinker's damn about popularity. But I don't think I care about the truth. And folks, and that's what you're going to get. You're going to get it here day in, day out. I don't care what you think or say. I don't care, okay? I'm going to tell it like it is. It ain't but one way to tell it, and that's like it is, okay? Victims, keep your head up. I don't think you're crazy, and there's a whole bunch of other people know you're not crazy. It's time we get our lives back. It's time we let this country know what's really going on. Contact me through North Mississippi Anti-Gang Stalking Association on Facebook. You can watch videos on YouTube, United States Anti-Gang Stalking Association. Until next time, I'm Richard Moore. Heads up. God bless you.